Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 37 of Show Viewer. Today we'll be going over episode 1 of One Piece live action season 2. Now, oh my goodness, it's as beautiful as I was expecting it to be. I legit this morning when I got up, because this is March 10th when I'm filming this, and I got up and like the first thing I did, I went right to it. I was like, okay, I gotta start watching this, and I watched that first sequence of it where it's Miss All Sunday, or Robin, Miss Valentine, and Mr. Five are going through this marine like base area, and they go and find a member of Baroque Works who's been cut in half by Zoro, and this this prologue just got to me because I saw how good I'd already saw Robin. I knew Robin looked phenomenal in live action, but then I saw Mrs. Valentine and Mr. Five. They look phenomenal too. I legit started getting emotional because, like, guys, going back to this beginning, like, I'm such a big One Piece fan, like, literally. But I've read. I'm caught up on the manga. I've watched all 1,156 episodes of the anime. I play the card game, and it's like everything. I got a bunch of Funko Pops up there, and I can't see the top shelf area, but there's many more, and they're predominantly One Piece. And so I just really love One Piece, but I love live action One Piece specifically because it's what got me into anime. It and Attack on Titan, like, it introduced me to so much phenomenal stuff. Again, that just natural curiosity of wanting to know more about who Luffy was, who the crew was, wanted to see more Zoro because he's my favorite character, all of that. Oh, it just got me emotional, and like I think about all the stuff that came out of this. Like I probably wouldn't have even ever met my girlfriend if I hadn't watched One Piece live action because it made me watch anime. And one of our first talking points was Neon Genesis Evangelion, or however you want to say it. But yeah, like, oh my gosh, it's just. It grabbed me when I started watching the episode because it was just so fun to be back into it. And I love the beginning parts of One Piece anyways. I love all of One Piece, besides Foxy Pirates. But it is still One Piece. It's still good. We still have Afro, Luffy, and Long Green Long Land Island. It's fun. But yeah, it just was phenomenal. But yeah, I'll kind of go over the story. This episode kind of followed the arc of Logtown, and Luffy and them just going into it and preparing to get set out for the Grand Line. So the episode kind of ends after that prologue of them just kind of discussing. And they're like, yo, we need some more supplies. Like, Sanji needs more food. And Zoro needs his 2 other swords. So they end up going to Logtown, even after some debate. But, because Luffy ends up learning that that's where Gold Roger was born and died. And he's like, yes, I want to go. So then they end up going to Logtown. We get a brief flashback of Garp and Roger talking before the execution of Roger. And they're talking. And Roger tells him about how he has a son, who we know is Portgas the Ace. And they just talk briefly. And he's like, yo, I need you to take care of my son. And so then we move on, and then we just go to the kind of the shopping scenes where we see Sanji go and pick up that cool-looking fish thing. We see Usopp go and get his iconic goggles, and we see Nami just go about buying some stuff. But one thing that surprised me here is when Nami and Usopp are shopping together, we see Bartolomeo. Now, for those of you who haven't watched or caught up on One Piece, Bartolomeo is a pretty predominant character who gets introduced in Dressrosa, and he's a super fan of Luffy. And it's really cool because this is canon. Like, Bartolomeo was there when the events of Logtown happened. And I really feel like Oda, because Oda is an executive producer on the live action, so I believe he probably just brought that in there so it's more interconnected, because Bartolomeo isn't introduced to, like, I believe it was episode 636 of One Piece, of the anime. So we don't know really anything about Bartolomeo, even though he technically was there. And it was cool to see him there because, I mean, he didn't play an integral role in any of the stuff that happened at Logtown, but he was there and he was a witness. So it's cool to see him actually in the foreground rather than the background like he was in the anime. But, well, he wasn't even animated in the background, but he was there. That was what I mean. But yeah, and we also see the phenomenal peak, oh my goodness, peak scene where Zoro is shopping for his other swords, and he's going and he finds the Sendai Kietsu, and he's talking with the shop owner, and the shop owner's like, bro, I'm not, this thing is cursed, do not get it. And Shushigi's in there, and she's like, yeah, it's cursed, don't get it, because we had to get introduced to Shushigi, so she comes into the sword shop, because she came to get her repaired sword, or sharpened sword. And so he throws the blade up, arm stuck out, it falls, rotates, and slides to the ground. It was phenomenal. That's one of my favorite Zoro scenes, and like in the earlier One Piece, peak fiction, guys. It looks so good in live action. Like, yes, it wasn't as dramatic as it was in the anime, but the anime is naturally going to be more dramatic because you got all those cuts and pans and all that. But yeah, it was peak fiction. And then we see him get his other sword, which is a 1 of 50 of the skillful grade blades from the shopkeep, and him and Tashigi just briefly talk. And he actually ran into Tashigi before going into the store because he ran into her and he was like, Kuina? Which kind of hurts because he knows Kuina is dead, but he believed it was Kuina anyways. And then he realizes, oh, Kuina's dead. That's not Kuina. because it's Tsushigi. But then after that, we move along, and Luffy was kind of with Sanji, but eventually he ends up getting separated from him in the market, and this leads to him eventually running into running into Buggy first. Yeah, he runs into Buggy because something gets under his hat, and his hat gets taken off. He's like, "Whoa, where's my hat?" You know, him and Bartolomeo are together because he runs into Bartolomeo, and they're kind of yapping it up, and then Buggy ends up taking his hat from him, and then they get into a bit of a scuffle, like a discussion there, and then Alavita comes out, and we see her new form, and I believe this was like honestly really impressive. This just really shows how dedicated the actors are to the One Piece live action. Like, I know Sanji's actor is like jacked, like he's a fit dude, and he does that so he can play the role of Sanji and do all of the stunts and stuff. And I believe Alavita's actress actually lost a lot of weight, because Alavita does lose weight like a drastic amount from when she's introduced to when she's introduced to Logtown, because she eats the slick fruit, which makes her slim down and all that, and she becomes slick, and she kind of has the properties of soap, where anything like hits her slides off. But yeah, I believe her actor actually lost that much weight, and that's just really impressive. Like, full props to her, because that is some dedication, and I just love how it shows the love and care that is put into the One Piece live action, because it deserves it, and it absolutely executes on it. I love like the quality of it so much. But yeah, we see this, and Luffy tries to take her out, but he ends up failing, and he's ultimately hit by Iron Mace Alavita, and he is knocked out. And then Buggy and them put him in handcuffs, and eventually they put him on a little mock trial, and Buggy's just throwing these elementary insults at Luffy throughout this entire thing. Like, they're very elementary, they're very stupid, they're very childish, but I love them because, like, I mean, I don't think Buggy actually says these things in the anime. At least I don't remember. Like, it's been a while since I actually watched the first arcs of One Piece in the anime. But yeah, it's stupid, but it's kind of fitting of Buggy's live action character. So I enjoyed it, even though it was very elementary and very goofy. But yep. So we see him put on trial. He's ultimately sentenced to death via Alavita, and his Buggy sucks as a lawyer. He didn't get him off good, sadly. But then we move on. And eventually they have everyone preparing for this. They take Luffy up to the top of the gallows, and he shows him like where Roger died and all that. And the Marines have come to kind of shut this thing down, but they're kind of waiting in silence because they're waiting to see if Luffy's people will come and save him. And Luffy's people do end up coming and save him. We get a lot of really good choreographed fights. We get to see Alavita versus Nami, which is really cool. We see Usopp take out Alavita with his pepper blast bomb things. She ends up sneezing and flinging herself back because Nami craftily knocked her shoes out from under, so her feet would be on the ground, and then therefore her devil fruit properties would be applied to the ground now. So once Usopp shoots her and she sneezes, she propels back, which was very intuitive. I really like that. But we see Sanji doing his thing, and we see Zoro doing his thing as well. And this leads to Luffy eventually getting up there, and Buggy has a sword. He's like, he's just giving his little, like, I guess essentially eulogy, and then he apologizes to the Straw Hats. He's like, "I'm sorry, but I'm dead." And right before this, we see and lightning strikes down on him and knocks the gallows down. Buggy's blasted apart, so he's just chop fruit, and Luffy ends up falling to the ground and getting back up, and he's good to go. Now they kind of escape the little scuffle with the Buggy pirates, and they are running, and the Marines eventually run into him. This is where we see a fight between Tsushigi and Zoro. It is a pretty good fight, but Zoro ultimately ends up winning. And they keep running until eventually Luffy runs into Smoker. Now, Smoker and Tsushigi look great in the live action. I was not expecting to do a Logia fruit this good. I was honestly kind of nervous. I didn't know how well they're going to be able to do a Logia. And for those of you who don't know what a Logia fruit is a fruit which gives someone's body the property of a certain thing. Like, there's magma nomi, which is the lava fruit, which turns the person's body into lava. It turns their body into a certain thing. Now, that's like paramecia fruits that are like that, kind of like the mochi fruit that Katakuri has, who's Cake Island. But, yeah, so it essentially just turns a person's body into a certain substance. Like, we have a light fruit, an ice fruit, what else do we have? I'm blanking on Logios for some reason. We have a sand fruit, which we get to see next season with Crocodile, which I really hope we get to see Crocodile before the end of One Piece season 2. But yeah, so he ends up running into Smoker. Smoker's Logia looks phenomenal. It's so good. His attacks are phenomenal. Luffy's attacks are so phenomenal. It's just all around a good fight. So we see as Smoker ends up getting the upper hand, and then someone comes in and slaps their hand on Smoker's shoulder. He's like, no, it's Dragon. And I didn't know if they were going to do Dragon. I was expecting them to. I didn't know if they would. But yeah, they ended up doing Dragon. Dragon honestly looks really cool. It looks a little bit different than I was expecting Dragon to look in the live action, but it fits. And he's got the tattoo and all that. And one interesting thing that I thought, since Oda is an executive producer, might be a little bit of foreshadowing, because one of the most believed theory, well, not one of the most believed, but one of the most proposed theories about Dragon's fruit, if he has one, is that it's the wind fruit. And I'm just saying, I gotta preface with this a little bit. The only thing I didn't like about this episode is that they didn't make it raining in Logtown, because in Logtown, during the anime and in the manga, it's raining, and while all this stuff is happening, like while it's Luffy's execution, they're running away and all that, and that made the lightning strike look a little bit more miraculous, but it could be put up to Willa D stuff, so it doesn't really matter. But one thing that it not raining actually kind of helped to insinuate was Dragon being the wind fruit user, because right after Dragon ends up like stopping Smoker, hitting him with the "Hey little bro," then the wind just whips up, picks up, and everything. So it may be a bit of a stretch, but it may be foreshadowing Dragon having the wind fruit. And I mean, I wouldn't put that beneath Oda. I think since he's an executive producer, there's a chance. But yeah, so Luffy ends up getting off, and he runs off, and Smoker's gone, and they end up running away, getting back to the ship. And we see Tsushigi is in a bar briefly after all this is happening, because she's kind of down on herself because she got beat by Zoro, who she was trying to take his legendary blade from, because Tsushigi's main goal is to like collect all the legendary blades, which is an impossible goal because Bro is not beating Mihawk. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, and then we see as Robin comes in there, and Robin's already in there, or Miss All Sunday, and she tries to recruit her Baroque works, but that doesn't end up happening. And then we see a Smoker comes in, kind of tells him a story about how, tells her a story about how he once was a child, and he doesn't want and he was a child when Roger set up the Great Age of Piracy, and he doesn't want another child to live under that. And speaking of child, I love that they kept the little girl scene in where she runs into Smoker with her ice cream and it falls on him, and it looks like he's gonna be mad, but then he's like, "Go get yourself another ice cream, get more scoops this time." Because that's really wholesome. That's one reason why I really like Smoker in early One Piece. Like, Smoker was one of my favorite characters until Punk Hazard, when he got absolutely like manhandled and lost all prevalence. But yeah, so we see that, and they're just briefly talking, and then eventually we go back to the Straw Hats, who are now approaching Reverse Mountain. Now, I love this episode. I cannot wait to watch more, because they dropped the entire season today. Like, I wasn't expecting that. They dropped the whole season, and I don't know if I'm going to break it into divisions for when I review them, because I'm reviewing the whole season. I love this. I'm absolutely reviewing it. I don't know if I'm going to break it, watch the whole season and then review it, or if I want to do, like, episodic, because I really want to give each episode its due diligence, because I mean, it deserves it. It's earned its respect. It's earned all that. So yeah, I may do a full episode just to make sure I give every single episode its needed attention. But I don't really know how I'll go about that. But you will be most certainly seeing a review of the entirety of One Piece Season 2 at some point. So yeah, I was so glad. This show is literally so phenomenal. I love it so much. It's such a wonderful homage to Ichiro Oda's work, and it's just phenomenal. I'm almost speechless with how good it is. And yeah, with this and the dadgum Chainsaw Man chapter, golly stutter, the Chainsaw Man chapter this day, it has had me through an emotional roller coaster today. But it's been a good day. It's been a good day for anyone who enjoys Chainsaw Man and One Piece. So thank you very much for watching episode 37 of Shelf Review, and I will see you next time.